Let it be known that the true light shines in every woman and man that cometh into the world. The true light that shineth in the darkness, but the darkness comprehendeth it not. Let us all within air of this true light fellowship hour bear witness to the true light within, that we may, like the real and living Messiah, Yahshua Christ, who many know today as Jesus Christ, pick up and bear our own cross, that we may be worthy of the Messiah by way of the Christ or Christ consciousness, known also as the first resurrection. And as we are now living in these times, let us all rise from our sleep and slumber and do the works of the Most High Heavenly One, this day and every day, as we say, Amun, 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 and Namastu, which simply means, I bow to the divinity in you. Well, Namastu again, and welcome to another Sunday service here at the Holy Qubtic Church of the Black Messiah. My name is Pastor Dr. Cleveland W. Enius III, also known as Ka-Hun, Anku, Sarah. As always, we like to greet our listening congregation, those who may be hearing this message through Facebook or YouTube or the radio. We encourage you to come down to number 72 Meadow Street in historic Bain Town any Sunday at 9 a.m. for our Sunday service, or any Wednesday at 7 p.m. for our True Light Fellowship and Bible study. And for those of you who did make it, again we say Namastu. Namastu. It simply means I bow to the divinity in each and every one of you. And Nefer Baka, which means good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody today? Everybody good? Y'all sound good. Y'all energy is nice. It's a resurrected energy. Yes. Well, we give thanks. Well, here at the Holy Qubtic Church, we are celebrating a new Resurrection Sunday. And before we begin our sermon, we want to wish our brothers and sisters throughout Christendom happy Easter, for those who may be celebrating Easter. And if you're not celebrating Easter, and you just, are hearing this message, and you don't normally go to church, we just say good morning to you, Today, our message, it is about resurrection. It is an original Easter message. What do I mean by that? Easter, as we've been taught, has an origin that is indeed African. Okay? And so through today's sermon, we're going to explore what the reality of this Easter actually was and is again in the Holy Qubtic Church. And we're going to delve into what it means to pick up our own cross, as today's sermon is entitled, The Pain and Joy of Picking Up Your Own Cross. Everybody say, my own cross. My own cross. And this is very important and key to us as atonists reaching our fullest potential. All right? The book of Matthew chapter 16, verse 24. Matthew 16 and 24 is where we want to begin. Because we see a statement being made here that for whatever reason seems to be ignored by our brothers and sisters in Christ, whom we know as Christ. The book of Matthew chapter 16, verse 24 says, Then said Yahshua, whom many know as Jesus, then said Yahshua unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and what? Follow me. Okay? So, of course, we know in this instance, it's not only speaking about men. Of course, those who would have interpreted the Bible and didn't really respect women, they only put men there, or some would say man means a man and woman, but we say humanity. Then said Yahshua unto his disciples, if any man come after me, let him deny himself. Deny him or herself. Well, what does this mean? Take up. To take up means to elevate, to raise. His or her cross. Which cross are we talking about? Because there are many different crosses. If you put cross in, you get an Ethiopian cross, you get a Catholic cross, you can get, so many different types of crosses. What is it? What cross are we talking about? And then it says to follow me. So what does it mean to follow Yahshua with your cross? You're crossing him. That's right. Because Yahshua had his own cross. And for a long time now, we've been taught that he was carrying everybody's cross. But he didn't say he was carrying everybody's cross. He made it very clear. You got to deny yourself. You got to pick up your own cross. You see what I'm saying? So you got to put on your big boy jockeys, your big girl panties, if you want to follow Yahshua. This whole idea of, no, he died. He died for my sins. And really? Did he say that? Did he really say that? Or did he say, you're responsible for picking up your cross and dealing with the sins that you are responsible for? The book of John chapter 14 verse 12, John 14 and 12, says something else very important that again, I feel we may not appreciate or understand in its fullest or context. John 14 and 12 reads, verily, verily, I say unto you. Now just to be clear, verily is the word amun. You look that up. He's saying, amun, amun, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do, shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father. Key verse. Key verse. Verily, verily, amun, amun, I say unto you, he that believeth on me. What does it mean to believe on Yahshua? What does it mean to follow Yahshua? It's quite simple. If you're doing the things that Yahshua did, then you are following Yahshua. So Yahshua didn't have no Easter. They say, well, of course he didn't have an Easter because Easter's based around him. Really? So what was the Last Supper? Why did they even come together to have a Last Supper? It's because it was Passover. Pesach. Pesach Shemo, as we say in the Holy Qubtic Church. Right? They say Pesach, we say Pesach. The P and the F is interchangeable. Right? So they were having a Passover dinner because this is what Yahshua, as one of the members of the tribe of Iuta, which is related to the other tribes, because there are 3 groups of 12 royal tribes of Ishmael, Israel, and Midiani. We all observed Pesach Shemo. We all observed the atonist Passover. And so he's saying, you got to do Passover. You got to fast the days of atonement. Celebrate the Day of Atonement. Right? Chanukah. You got to honor the Shabbat. Friday evening to Saturday evening. You light your candles. Right? We could go on and on. Selah. Yahshua fell on his face to pray. Why? Because it was a specific way that we prayed and still pray today, known as Selah, which is what you see throughout the book of Psalms. That was a specific prayer supplication, right? So those who were doing the things that Yahshua did, they were the ones who believed on him. It says, the works I do shall he do also. So you go through the life and times of Yahshua, he did many works. If you do as Yahshua did, then you too will do similar works. But then it goes a step further. And greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father. So you have to do even greater works than Yahshua did. And this is now what it means to pick up our own cross. Amen? Atonism, by whichever name it is known, is the greatest cohesive force and impulse ever brought to play upon the consciousness of the African. Some call it atonism, some call it the Ka-Hun philosophy. This bit of information here, one of our elders who has brought to light a philosophy known as the Ka-Hun philosophy, which is just atonism by another name, yes, speaks to this reality of this cohesive force. Seba Azair is his name, right? Ahmed Azair, right? But he speaks to this cohesive force, something that's going to bring us together, right? But he says this cohesive force and impulse, right? Or I should say atonism, by whichever name it is known, is the greatest cohesive force and impulse ever brought to play upon the consciousness of the African. The African's despair remains unconscious. There's a despair, there's a hurting, there's a confusion, there's a misunderstanding that we all carry. And in carrying it, it is unconscious for the most part. The African's despair remains unconscious because he or she is unable to articulate a true religious identity that makes him conscious of his condition. Seba Zaire would say a spiritual philosophy, which we know as a true religious identity. All right? So if we don't have a true religious identity, there's going to remain this despair inside of us that is not going to really go anywhere, and it's going to play out in different ways. Amun? The African can make no sense of the data that is around her or him because she or he lacks a true religious identity that can unmask the unconscious feelings of one's way of life. A true religious identity makes possible one's view of despair. See, you can't be looking at the world through the eyes of the European and expect to see your despair. See, they blow up Brussels, right? And people on Facebook going crazy, right? Oh, pray for Brussels. I feel sorry for the people in Brussels, but Brussels ain't the only place where things was blowing up and people was dying. But we cannot blame the European for highlighting the European's despair. That's the European's job. Amen? But your job is to highlight the African despair. And you cannot do that if you're looking through the perspective of the European. So your true religious identity makes possible the view of your despair. It goes on to say, there is no position outside the available spheres of life that can make the African either assert or deny that unconscious despair really exists. So without your true religious identity, you really don't recognize what's been done to you. Because you're being told over and over again that everything's normal. This is how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be speaking someone else's language. You're supposed to be dressing and acting like somebody else. You're supposed to be following somebody else's way of paying respect to God. You understand? That's normal. What are you talking about? You're crazy, man. You're what they say? Don't be a reverse racist. I say, you know any other way to reverse racism? Huh? What is despair? Despair is a feeling. It is an anxious and depressed state where people often claim they do not know what they are feeling. Many of us don't know what we're feeling. We're celebrating the resurrection of our Lord and Savior. But number one, we don't know who He is. And number two, we lie because we don't feel resurrected. That's right. We only hoping to feel resurrected, but we ain't feel resurrected. You understand? A true religious identity makes visible the despair within the knowledge paradigm of the European. This is key. The true religious identity makes visible the despair within the knowledge paradigm of the European. The European has already built an infrastructure for anything that is said to be legitimate to exist. So let me say it this way. You could be the biggest, baddest brawler on the street, right? And you may catch Mayweather in the bathroom and beat him bad. Does that make you the champion? Why? Well, that ain't no sanctioned fight. That's right. You didn't beat him within the infrastructure that was created by the governing bodies of boxing to say, hey, you're the champ, bro. You beat him on our terms. Because we say the ring got to be a certain size and the gloves got to be a certain weight and everybody got to be a certain weight and things got to be fair according to what we understand fair is in order for you to be considered a champion. Now, if you beat Mayweather in the ring when we say it's sanctioned, you got him. But you can't roll up on my man with grocery in his hand, slap him. You know what I'm saying? Kick him in the back of his knee. And then take a selfie with him on the ground and say, boom! Got you. No, it don't work like that. The same thing goes for being conscious or aware. If you are not taking that consciousness and bringing that to the forefront, in other words, if you don't have a true religious identity, you're just a conscious brawler. You're just somebody who out there talking and you know a lot of stuff. You may even be a YouTube star. People listen to you because they like to hear what you have to say. But at the end of the day, are you making inroads? Are you actually helping your people collectively to raise themselves, to resurrect themselves in such a way whereby they can compete on the same level as those who are deemed intellectually potent? Can you sit down with the Harvards and the Yales? Can you sit down with the seminarians? Can you sit down and discuss and be on a platform and be recognized? Do you have a system whereby people can understand that you're not just talking, you actually have a way of life and you're living? You understand what I'm saying? Why is this important? Because when we begin to do this, we actually are saying to the world, hey, I have a true religious identity. I'm not relying on you to tell me who I am. I'm not coming to you and asking for you to confirm for me who I am. I'm not asking you to celebrate Fisak Shemo, the Atonement Passover. I'm not asking you to celebrate Utstur, or this new Resurrection Sunday, whereby we're not recognizing the Greco-Roman interpretation of our salvation, whereby we are told that a man named Jesus Christ was crucified on a Friday, and they call it good. Now, I see Good Friday in the Bible, but someone decided to call it good. It wasn't good for Jesus. You know what I'm saying? And then they said what? Oh, and he was buried. And then he rose 3 days. But if you do the math. Friday, okay, let's do it. Friday evening to Saturday evening, that's 1 day. Right? Then, hold on. Okay, so Saturday. Okay, hold on. So Saturday evening. Okay, but hold on, because we gotta get to 3. Hold on, we gotta get to 3. Okay, so so that's 1. Then Saturday evening to Sunday evening. Nobody rise Sunday morning. So okay, so it ain't 3. Man, don't play with our soul, man. Stop playing with our soul. So now you got people saying, well, it ain't Good Friday, it's Good Wednesday now. Yeah, I was on the radio with a pastor who said, hey, he technically died on a Thursday and was resurrected on Sunday. Now, we smile at that because in ancient Africa, and even not so ancient Africa, we celebrated this reality of the loss of Asaru. And this this festival of Aset, whereby Asaru, okay, and you have to go and look these words up. Now, if you look him up, you look up Osiris. That's what the Greeks call him. All right, but this Asaru, okay, he was remembered by way of a 4-day feast or celebration from Thursday to Sunday. You understand? Which we are culminating right now in the Holy Qubtic Church, which is the feast of Aset. Aset, who would have been known as Isis in the Greeks, she was the one who gathered the body parts of Asaru, who was symbolically cut up into 14 pieces, and then resurrected insofar as we understand in our way of life that a person will not rest in the next world if they don't have a proper burial. So she, Aset, and Nephthut, her sister, okay, within the Asarian or Asetian society, knew that they had to get the body parts of Asaru together and symbolically breathe the breath of life into him, because Aset is seen as a bird known as a kite that's sitting on the chest of Asaru, and she's blowing the wind inside of him, which today we call what? CPR, the breath of life. The chest compression. This is why the bird is on the chest. And as she's on the chest, she's resuscitating, resurrecting. But not to bring back a dead man, more so to resurrect through the children of this sacrificial lamb, the original sacrificial lamb. Bring back the life. Now, how do we get away from this? Well, we look in the original books of the Bible first, at page 232. And this is the book number 12. Okay? The book of the Tamarian or ancient African Adam or Adama. And I want to show you here that what we've been taught has been misconstrued, has been twisted, and it causes us to be limited with regards to us truly resurrecting ourselves. Because we must pick up our own cross in order that we be resurrected, like the Messiah. Not that he was resurrected for us. We must be resurrected. The lack of this knowledge is what destroys us, because we're waiting for somebody to save us. And I dare anyone to come to me and tell me that Jesus died 2,000 years ago and we still have to go through slavery to meet him. Because we shouldn't have never met slavery if we was free. How you could be free and then you need to go through hell to meet Jesus? If that ain't the devil. Now you might not like how that sounds. Some people don't like how that sounds. But guess what? If you don't like how that sounds, you are an enemy of the truth. You are a ball and chain on the mentality of our people. You understand? I don't hate you. You're still my brother. You're still my sister. But I sure hate your mentality.
That's right.
You understand? It needs to be resurrected. So what did they do? Well, before we could even get to Jesus or Yahshua, we have to understand that in the Bible, the first person that was symbolically sacrificed was Abel. And Abel was the son of Adam, correct? And in the book of 1 Corinthians 15, verse 45, okay, it reads, and so it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul. The last Adam was made a quickening spirit. So Yahshua is likened unto Adam, which means that we're dealing with the bloodline here. Because the word Adam, life, blood, the lifeblood, which is the only way you can be washed in the blood of Yahshua, is by way of the DNA, the RNA, and the chromosomes. So Yahshua was of the same bloodline of Adam, as seen here. Even though we don't agree with everything Paul says, he's making a point, right? So at the end of the day, we have to understand what was happening in this story, right? Page 232, starting at verse 168. And we're going to move through it a little quick because I've got to get to some other things. But I want to make this point. It reads, right. W-R-I-T-E, right. The fact is that these names, Abiel and Cain, because they say Abel and Cain, right, which originally was Abiel and Cain, were not their birth names, but instead these were titles which describe what they were responsible for doing and the acts they committed, as the original Sutuk or Cain and Asaru, Abiel, were a tiller of the ground and keeper of sheep, respectively. So Asaru is who is being spoken of in the 23rd Psalm, thy rod and thy staff. So it does what? Comforted me. Huh? You guided me to greener pastures. The sheep are us. We are the flock. Right? And this Sutuk was the tiller of the ground. This is because in Tamaray, or ancient Africa, Asaru, which means the seer, and Sutuk, which means he who shines forth as fire, were the terrestrial guardian angelic host of vegetation and flock, respectively. Now, some flip-flopping happened. Because when we see Asaru, sometimes you see a picture of him, he's green. So they often ask, well, was he really green? Well, the reality is he was someone who had a green thumb. You understand? He was one who was responsible for the vegetation, right? And Sutuk in ancient Africa was one responsible for the flock. Now, when we get into the Cain and Abel story, they are told that they must do what? Present an offering, right? And Cain presents, what he presents? Vegetables, produce. And Abel produced meat. Okay? Now this Abel, or Abel as they say, originally was your Asaru, who was more responsible for the actual vegetation. So long story short, what the writers of the Bible is saying is, well, technically meat better than the vegetables. Right? Now we ate both in ancient Africa. We ate more of the vegetables than we did the meat, right? But the point of the matter is, somebody stepped in and was twisting the story around, right? So we jump down to verse 170. Let them learn the Qubtic ways, O Annere, that they may be brought to atonism. This led to a point whereby mankind of Europa did rewrite the original facts of Tamarian culture in such a manner that the guardian angelic host Sutuk, who held the pitchfork as he represented the manipulation and the bringing forth of the element fire, transformed into the devil, while the guardian angelic host Asaru, who held the crook and staff and flail or rod, was transformed into the Good Shepherd, or God, who was reborn through his son Haru, falsely called Horus, which made him Ab, father, Yil, God, or the father of the guardian angelic host Haru, who became responsible for grafting mortals. So they took Sutuk. Sutuk is one who was responsible for, he represented fire. We didn't worship fire. We understand that we have different natures, and some are more fire-like, some are more water-like, some are more wind, and some are more earth-like. He would carry with him what today would be called a pitchfork, and therefore that became your devil. Asaru, with this crook, as they would say, right? He was the one who was then transformed into God, right? And then they say God had a son, right? So therefore, Asaru, having a son called Haru, right, became the Ab, father, Yil. So Ab El, or Abel, because if you look at the word, right, here's what they did. Just so we're clear, right? See, this is the word Abel, A-B-L-E. That's Abel, or Ab Yil, the Father of God. Okay? I know it's a lot for some people to wrap their heads around, but you have to plant the seed so you can go and do your research, right? So this Asaru then is referred to as your Ab Yil. Verse 171, for you whose genealogy has survived until the latter days, know that you are loved. Then there were those amongst the mankind of Europa who realized that they couldn't let you realize that their Greco-Romanized god Zeus took on the personage of human beings in each generation, such as in the case of those called Jesus, as well as Alexander the Greek, whose name they placed at certain places throughout the versions of the Bible. So, this Jesus is none other than Jupiter Zeus, who really was impersonated, or the characteristics of this Zeus was taken on by some of the Greco-Roman rulers, such as Alexander. Because if you do the research, you'll understand that in early Christianity, they were actually worshiping the Caesars. You understand? They were gods to them. That's why they had what's called the triumvirate, the Trinity. You understand? Thus, Zeus, or Apep Zuen, physically became a humanoid person who could be killed. Because Alexander, he eventually died. All of them eventually died. As such, they had to hide the real events of how a disagreeable did kill an agreeable, and instead said that the devil killed God. So when you read Cain and Abel's story, Cain, a disagreeable, kills Abel, an agreeable, right? You go even to the story of who else? Give me some other twins. Jacob and Esau, right? Jacob steals the birthright of Esau. Yes? You even go to, who? Ephraim and Manasseh. You see they say the youngest one is going to be stronger than the oldest one, right? You see this dichotomy of these twins always fighting, or always having differences, and in some instances even killing. The Romans, when they get their hands on it, what do they call it? Remus and Romulus. In some parts of Nigeria, you learn about Urugu, the Urugu twins. Sorry?
I was going to say Adonijah and Solomon.
Adonijah and Solomon. Throughout the scriptures, you see this, brothers. If they're not twins, they're brothers, and they have some differences or some odds, right? And this is ultimately where this is coming from. It goes on to say, and instead of Asaru, the good shepherd, being God, he becomes the Son of God, who is killed for your sins. Thus, he was a willing sacrifice. This was all done in order to justify the frailty of the Greco-Romanized concept called monotheism and those who adhered to it, who also suffered from an inferiority complex. So a group of people with an inferiority complex found your true religious identity and had to write themselves into it, and in doing so, they had to change your records around to suit them. This is what we're up against. This is why, even though Easter is found nowhere in the Bible, people are celebrating Easter today. Big Easter Sunday, y'all. I get my pastel, sir. I'm ready to go. Huh? That's how we go. We like to what? Follow fashion. Right? So, how did this all take place? What actually happened in order to cause us to be in the position that we're in? Well, first of all, you have to understand that the Bible that we hold today, as the King James Version or any other version, is a man-made creation. Don't get mad at me. Okay? Let's just do a little simple. This one is elementary now. Same day. Okay, this one, I cover it up. Let's look at this one. Oh, okay, this one even better. What name on this? God. No? What name on this? Jesus. Got a J. Almost there. Okay, for real. Who name on this? The Holy Ghost. No? You mean God, Jesus, the Holy... None of their names on this? So, who Bible is this? It's King James Bible. So don't get mad at me when I explain to you that this is a man-made concoction. See, we ain't against the Bible, you know. We against the misinterpretation of the Bible, the mistranslation of the Bible. We have a big problem with that. We are not having a problem with the Bible because there is an original version of the Bible, and that original version is African. Not because we say so, not because we black and we got to try to figure out and make ourselves seem important because, you know, everybody else did it, so we might as well do it too. In the British Museum, you can find the Shabaka stone. They say the oldest theology in the world. The pyramid text. You understand? These are things that came out of Africa. Not because we said so, but because it is a fact. You understand? So, how did they create the story about Jesus dying on the cross? Well, go to the book of Psalm, chapter 22. Psalm 22. And in Psalm 22, we can read just the first 5 verses. Because I need you to see something here. Psalm 22. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Why art thou so far from helping me and from the words of my roaring? Stop. That sounds familiar. Where that coming from? Or where do we hear it again? Well, let's see. Let's go to Matthew 27 and 46. Because if you don't take the time and study, you will not be approved. Study to show thyself approved. Matthew 27 and they say 46. Let's see. Now, I want you to be clear on this. I didn't just decide to match these verses up. Like I have no life. Let me sit down and match verses. That's dominoes. I just do that dominoes. I don't do that. That's matching dominoes. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know. Yeah. Matthew 27:46, and about the 9th hour, Yahshua cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? The same thing he said as somebody in Psalm 22, David. Really? So what happened? I mean, like who does that? Like every time, how many times have you heard somebody say that while they dying? How about never? You say, ow. You say, oh, help me, Lord. Oh, Jesus, help me. You say all kind. I ain't care if they Rasta, Muslim, or Jew. They done beat Jesus in dust. When they come in on that gurney, oh, Jesus, help me. I hope nobody recording them. Right? So let's get to the real crux of the matter then. We have a book that's coming out in short order. It's called Christianity Before Christ. And I want to read a bit from it to begin to share with you a little bit more about what we're talking about here, because we got to be responsible adults as we deal with the truth. Okay? There's a council called the Council of Nicaea. The root word of Nicaea is nice. The word nice means stupid. Don't believe me? Go look it up. Okay? The etymological meaning. The Council of Nicaea, the job of the Council of Nicaea was to hijack atonism, was to hijack your true religious identity. Right? Now, how did they do this? Constantine, who was the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity, right? He changed the place of the so-called resurrection of Christ because he and those in attendance during the first Council of Nicaea knew from experience of the great power of the Karastian, which is the original true Christian teachings. When we say Karastian, okay, let me be clear. We didn't make up the title Christianity Before Christ. Pope who? Augustine of Hippo, one of the church fathers. That's a book he wrote. You understand? Because they knew that they were Christians before Christ. All right, which we'll get to in a second. That sounds crazy, right? So they understood from their experiences of the great power of the Karastian, right, teachings, which held at its core the power and propagation concerning the atonist resurrection of the first Nazarite, the original sacrificial shepherd, Asaru. So they got this new movie out called Risen, and they ain't calling Jesus Jesus. Where's the Nazarite? Is the Nazarite in the tomb? Where did he go? Yeah, I ain't making fun of you. Because you desecrate my story, man. Huh? And you got me falling behind myths, fairy tales, when there's a real story. So they had to change the actual place of the so-called resurrection. Because why? Thus, as soon as they began their scheme of subverting and supplanting atonism, Constantine the Roman immediately began, through trickery, their works of undermining the atonist Karastian ways towards the elimination of this fundamental doctrine of resurrection through works and progeny. We understand that you're resurrected through your children and through your works. No magic. What you leave and put into your children, or if you can't have children and you got works, that is how you're resurrected. That is how you were remembered in the hereafter. What does hereafter mean? Here after you gone. That's all. Ain't deep. This was and yet remains important because over 10,000 years before the first Council of Nicaea, the Karastian or original true Christians were already accustomed to performing the Maguraj. The Maguraj. We were already performing the Maguraj, which is a sacred pilgrimage, just like how the Muslims today will go to Mecca, the Christians today, they will go to Vatican City, the Jews, they'll go to the Wailing Wall. They get that from us because we already had a Maguraj, which included a meditative visitation of the Qubtic, or the empty tomb or shrine of Asaru in the sacred city of Het-Qatar, Memphis. Het-Qatar, the house of the spirit of Ta, the divine spirit, known as Jerusalem, the peaceful city from on high, which allowed the pilgrims to return back home filled with fervent enthusiasm for their risen Redeemer, whose Ba, the divine African DNA soul, was returned to the Yilyon, the heaven of heavens, via Sahu, the Orion constellation. We understood that at the birth, or the death rather, because they actually one and the same. When a person expires, they will rebirthed through their children by way of something called the opening of the mouth ceremony. We perform the opening of the mouth ceremony here every Sunday. It's called the Eucharist. Because when you take the Eucharist, you do what? You open your mouth and you place that bread inside your mouth. And that bread, the Eucharist, which we take from Numbers 6. This ain't talking about no Eucharist. We ain't talking about eating no body and drinking no blood. That's cannibalism. That's what the man was doing underneath Chuck E. Cheese for the past 10 years in Chicago. You all heard about that? Yeah. So that's their Eucharist. You understand? You go to Chuck E. Cheese, go to the bathroom, and you wake up dead. That's what they was into, right? So we were performing this ritual. We understood that Sahu, or the Orion constellation, were the heavens. And that is exactly what Christianity today understands as heaven, because every time you look in the New Testament under the word heaven, you find the word Oranos, the word Orion. It's there. So please don't just accept what we're saying. Please go and look it up. So they had to change it from Jerusalem, and they did this, and they are still doing this continuously by making it seem as if there's such a thing as the Middle East. There's no Middle North. There's no Middle South. Huh? There's no Middle West. So where we going with Middle East? They had to put a Middle East in Africa to get rid of Africa. They had to put the state of Israel, not the country, mind you, not the tribe, but the state. A state is based on condition. Liquid state, solid state, gas state, based on condition, based on the temperature. Amen? Do you know that they have literally tried to settle themselves in over 35 different places around the world to call it the Holy Land? So, how it could be the Holy Land? How you could tell me God chose you and put you in the Holy Land, and you busy all over the place trying to put yourself in people's land to say this the Holy Land? You done try it in Australia. You done try it down in Uganda. You done try it in Kenya. You done try it in America by Niagara Falls. Huh? You done got peace in Russia. You're all over the place telling people that you are the chosen. But Jesus called you the synagogue of Satan in Revelation 2:9 and 3:9. And so they had to change the place of resurrection, because that city of Jerusalem is a city called Armana. Amirna. Now again, please don't accept anything I'm saying here. I need you to go and look up the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's a scroll called the Temple Scroll. There's a scroll called the Copper Scroll. Right? The Temple Scroll gives the dimensions of the temple that should have been built, that they call Solomon's Temple. They say Solomon built a temple on Mount Moriah. But what they're saying in the Temple Scroll, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, is that the longest wall in this temple is 800 meters. But the Temple Mount ain't 800 meters. They say the Temple Mount is less than 600 meters. So that means the temple can't fit on Mount Moriah? Or it never was there. It never was there. Robert Feather is explaining to people that in the copper scrolls, in the Greek now, they have spelled out, guess what name they put in there? Akhenaten. They're explaining that these so-called Essenes, these people who are coming out of Africa, they say there's a Hebrew village in Elephantine. Elephantine is an island in the middle of the Nile. Not denial now, because some people in denial. The Nile. So if there's a Hebrew community in the middle of the Nile, Were they actually Hebrews? Or was it a group of people looking at them saying, we want your stuff. We can call you a Hebrew. Because these were the priests of Ankh and Aton who were living Atonism. So there's another scroll, or there's a group, it's about 175 papyri, called the Elephantine Papyri. That's called, guess what they call it? The Passover Papyri. So you had Passover. You understand? You had resurrection before Constantine and others came in and changed it around. Those who held true faith in the Atonist Karastian teachings did congregate from all parts of the world, that they may perform Sila, true prayer supplication, at Mount Baku. Mount Baku. Wait till you realize what Mount Baku is. Mount Baku, which means the African olive tree of dawn, aka the Mount of Olives. This is your original Mount of Olives that they were talking about in the Bible. You understand? And all of these realities dealing with the resurrection of Asaru had already occurred in Tamaray. Constantine made it where the Greco-Roman Europeanized Christ. They Europeanized, they bleached everything. You understand? You got to treat your religion like you treat your clothes. Put the whites with the whites and put the colors with the colors. Because if you put the bleach on the colors, it's going to be destroyed. You understand? Oh, that's racism. Well, Superwash is racist. It's a racist place because everyone has been doing that all day, separating clothes. Constantine made it where the Greco-Roman Europeanized Christ, known as Jesus Christos or Jesus Christos, in order to captivate the minds of the masses and mislead the global Nubian Melaninite population away from Atonism. So they had to do everything to lead us away from Atonism. And in leading us away from Atonism, we stopped picking up our cross. What we started to do was depend on somebody else to pick up a cross for us. Isn't that what we still do? Well, the government need to fix this. So-and-so need to do that. You know, they need to have another job fair, man. Because, really? I mean, how would you stand up in the front of the Most High and tell the Most High you was hungry? You know the Most High asked you? Then they give you seeds? Then they give you land? Huh? Then they give you sun? Then they give you wind? Then they give you rain? Why were you hungry? Obviously, I wasn't your sustainer. Because if I was your sustainer, you would have taken the seed, put it in the ground, water it, wait for the tree to come up, and get the food. Obviously, the Most High cannot be our sustainer because we waiting on the economy to get better. Not the weather, you know. The economy. So the beast has created an environment that we depend on. And now they're looking for new slaves. That's why the economy is going bad. Because the first way they built the economy was to do what? Use free labor. So that's what they can do again. That ain't this sermon though. We can do that next week. Right? So, this cross though, that we're referring as we begin to wrap up or reference this cross. Today we see a cross that looks like this. Are we all familiar with? Yes? Do you know that's African too? Because we understand that there is a cross called the Anku. This cross that people recognize as the cross of Christianity are actually 4 crosses. What do we mean? There are 4 crosses which appear in the celestial heavens, namely the Southern Cross, the False Cross, the Alpha Cross, and the Diamond Cross. These are actual crosses in the sky. The Southern Cross actually points to Orion, Sahu, okay, the soul of Asaru, right? How does this play out within Christianity? Well, on Calvary, as they would say, there are 3 crosses, correct? There's Yahshua, Jesus, and there's these 2 thieves or criminals. Yes? The 4th cross is when Peter is crucified upside down. So within Christianity, they have these 4 crosses, right? So they understood that to take your true religious identity, what they had to do was twist it enough so that you still could recognize it, but they could have the type of control over you that they wanted to have. So while you are busy waiting for a man to come out of a tomb, which is confusing, let me explain why. They said that the proof that they have of Jesus resurrecting is a shroud called the Shroud of what? Turin, yes? Now, never mind, there's about 50 of them, but that's another sermon, right? They said an imprint of his spirit coming out of his body. It burned the sheet, or it marked the sheet, and imprinted the sheet, yes? So, why he had to move the rock? I mean, he got out the sheet straight. And then when he got to the rock, he had to move the rock. A little solid, a little hot egg. The spirit only can move through the linen. It's a linen spirit. Linen spirit? Yeah? You see where this thing going? This thing getting crazy. Huh? And I ain't even going into that part of the story today. Right? So, ultimately though, how did we pick up our cross? We picked up our cross by going through, as we talked about earlier, this cross is known as the Ankh. Okay? The A represented Anu. You should write this down. The Greeks called it Heliopolis. The N represented Nut, which the Greeks called Thebes. The K, Chemenu. Chemenu. And the H, Het Ka Ta. These were 4 sacred cities that we had to travel through in order to become balanced. You understand? In order to fully grasp or understand or overstand our true religious identity. What do we call this today? Associate's degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhD. It's still here. It's still with you. Because once you have a PhD, and if you look at the symbolism of why they robe you, you understand? They are saying now that you're the expert. You're the source of information on this particular topic. You can start a school. You can, come up with a philosophy. You understand? You are the expert, right? But in actually picking up this cross as we end, the scriptures say there's going to be painful times and there's going to be joyful times. Revelation chapter 10. 7 to 11. Revelation 10, 7 to 11. This is who's speaking in the book of Revelation? John or Yohanan. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, says the mystery of God should be finished, as he hath declared to his servants the prophets. There will be no more mystery to God. Huh? Because every time we start to explain these mysteries, which ultimately a mystery is what? My story. When we start to explain our story, we are told, no. God is mysterious. So you don't need to worry about that. Yeah, but right here it says the mystery of God should be finished. In other words, the veil will be moved from our eyes. Doesn't mean we are God. Doesn't mean we are the Most High. Doesn't mean we know everything. It just means that some things are being explained. Amen? Verse 8, and the voice which I heard from heaven spake unto me again and said, Go and take the little book which is open in the hand of the angel which standeth upon the sea, and open the earth. And I went unto the angel and said unto him, Give me the little book. And he said unto me, Take it, and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand, and ate it up, and it was in my mouth sweet as honey. And as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. And he said unto me, Thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations, and tongues and kings. When we eat the original books of the Bible, it's sweet to the mouth. Oh, I didn't know that. Wow. Ooh, really? That's how that go? How you say it? Oh, man. Beautiful, right? But then you got to live it. You got to live it, Sister Lorraine. You see what I'm saying? And that's bitter to the belly. And that is the pain and the joy of picking up our own cross. It's a beautiful thing to have your own religion. You know, when I see my wife lighting the Shabbat candles and, you know, all week we've been celebrating Passover and, you know, we have our Eucharist and we do Sila, I feel proud. Men and women, you should feel like men and women because you're not toying around with somebody else's religion. You have your own religion. Women, you can be proud to be women. Goddesses, men, you can be proud to be men. Gods, and all children of the Most High. Because you have your own religion. You understand? You don't have to be converted to somebody else's religion. Because if you accept the status of a Gentile, then that is how they're going to treat you. They're going to treat you less than. You'll never, ever be the Pope in the Catholic Church. You can forget that. Huh? You ain't going to never be the head imam in Islam. You ain't going to never be the head rabbi in Judaism. They'll let you convert. They'll let you pay your zachut or your tithes or your offerings. They'll let you do that. But there's a seal in there which starts at the ground for us. I should say it ends at the ground for us. You understand? Whereas when you have your own true religious identity, the sky is your starting point. You understand? So please listen to these words carefully. This resurrection is about you. You are being resurrected. The breath of life is being blown into you. Yahshua breathed on his disciples and said what? Receive ye of the Holy Soul. Some would say Holy Ghost. Receive ye of the Holy Soul. Take your story. Lift it up. So that you can become the new resurrection. With that we say Amun. Namaste. You have been listening to the True Light Fellowship Hour, brought to you by the Qubtic Church of the Black Messiah, Journey Home Group International, and our advertising partners, of whom we are very thankful. We are located at number 72 Meadow Street in historic Bain town and led in the Bahamas by Pastor Dr. Cleveland W. Eneas III, also known as Ka-Hun, Anku. If this message has been a blessing to you today, and you feel it in your heart to assist us in bringing forth this weekly message by way of advertising or otherwise, or you wish a copy of this message, we ask that you please contact us at 242-426-1148 or email us at qubticrevealer@gmail.com. That's QUBTIC revealer@gmail.com, or on Facebook, the Qubtic Church of the Black Messiah Journey Home Group International, Bahamas branch. We bow to the divinity in each and every one of you by saying, Namastu.
Eluti mingi ngana kuko kateo.